Did you know, for example, 40% of Britons have trouble getting to sleep? Not my girlfriend. She can fall asleep at the drop of a trouser. 20% of British OAPs are unhappy. We don't know about the other 80% because no one's visited in a while. And according to scientists, ironing burns 157 calories an hour. But that can't be true. Otherwise, why is your mum so fat? Let's have a look and see whether the end of football is up there.
The end of football!
Yes, it's the end of the football season. Winning a place in the Premier League was worth £170 million to Huddersfield. For that kind of money, they could just knock it down and start again.
You can't say that!
I just did.
Damn it!
Well, let's have a look and see if it's up there.
Yay.
Yes, of course. It's the NHS hacking. The NHS has been hit by a cyber attack. It's even affected our family. We had to say, sorry, Nan, the nurses can't get on Facebook, so we've had to turn off your life support. OK, well, let's have a look and see if J.K. Rowling is up there.
Yay.
Yes, it's J.K. Rowling. J.K. Rowling was once unemployed and living on state benefits, but now she's richer than the Queen, who, ironically, is unemployed and living on state benefits. Did you know, for example, 70% of British men say they wear their watch as a status symbol? I know I do, and my status is tiny cock o'clock. 40% of young adults don't know how to change a nappy. It's easy. You just have to pull the legs through, fold the flaps over, secure them, and at no point look your nana in the eyes. And 12% of British women would prefer their man to be good at DIY rather than sex. I like to combine the two. Drill hole A against the wall until flush, then screw until nuts tighten. OK, well, let's have a look and see if the general election is up there. Yes, the general election campaign. The Tories have pledged to cut migration, presumably by making the country so shit no one wants to come here. I know he's got his critics, but I think Corbyn is the man for the job, as long as that job is running an organic hummus stall at an artisanal food fair. Corbyn is soft on defence, soft on law and order, and hard on Diane Abbott. Well, let's have a look and see if spa breaks are up there. Yeah, I think surprising. Spa breaks. It can be a bit embarrassing having certain beauty treatments, but it's nothing like as embarrassing as walking around with an unbleached anus.
Who's bleaching anuses?
Who's bleaching anuses?
Yeah.
He's called Javier. And he's very thorough.
I'd be so worried if I was undressing you and I saw how black your hair was and then how Rob Beckett coloured your arsehole.
Well, it's been waxed as well, so there's...
Why are you bleaching it if it's been waxed?
It's not the hair, it's the hole.
What colour?
You bleached it, that's what it is! You bleached the hole!
Sorry, you thought they were bleaching anus hair?
But, like, when you say bleaching, to change the colour or, like, sticking toilet duck up and to, like, clear it out?
To change the colour.
What colour did you get it bleached?
Same
as that, you don't go for, like, a colour
I said I'll have a Beckett. OK, let's see if it's up there.
Yay.
Yes, of course. Women think 27 is the perfect age to have a baby, whilst men think it's sometime in the next couple of... Is that the time? Do you want anything from the kitchen? So those were the top things people want to do before they die, but others include running a marathon. The average marathon runner spends 4 hours, 30 minutes at work the following Monday telling everyone they ran a marathon. And falling in love. Sometimes it's difficult to tell if it was love or just sex. Well, if it was a wild, passionate moment that will live fondly in your memory forever, it was sex. If you spent the next 10 years together until you were repulsed by the sound of each other's breathing, that's love. On average, it takes 12 weeks after starting to exercise to see measurable changes to your body. And that's according to the box my penis pump came in. Another couple of weeks. 20% of mothers return to work earlier than expected. Well, to be fair, babies are annoying. And 75% of Brits have tried to give up sugar. My girlfriend can't give up her sugar. Not when her sugar looks this good, baby. OK, let's see if exams are up there. Yes, it's exams. I'll never forget my first exam. It was inconclusive, but in the end, they went with male. Let's have a look and see if Trump's up there. Yes, it's Donald Trump. It was Donald Trump's 71st birthday last week, so if you're watching, Melania, hang on in there, love. It's only a matter of time. Did you know, for example, 50% of people say they feel they're not living life to the full? Come on, how can you say that? You're sitting on your own, watching E4 in your pants, eating a yogurt. It's pretty full on. Tinder has 10 million active daily users. Oh, yeah, it's got users, all right. You could have called me, Carlos. You could have called. And 64% of teenagers think they have it harder than their parents. Well, I'd like to say to those teenagers, they're wrong. No one has ever had it harder than your mum. I can tell you that hip-hop is not one of the top things America has given the world, but I often listen to hip-hop in the car. I do quite a lot of driving because of my job and also because I got hoes in different area codes. Well, let's have a look and see if the French election is up there. Yeah. Yes, Emmanuel Macron is the new president of France. People are making a big deal of the fact that Macron's wife is 24 years older than him, and yet nobody's bothered that Melania Trump is sleeping with a man 24 years older than her. Apart from Melania Trump, she's really bothered about it. So those were the nation's most popular talking points, but in other news, Harry Potter star Emma Watson has won a gender-neutral award for her role in Beauty and the Beast. If you don't know what a gender-neutral award is, basically, it doesn't matter whether you've got a wand or a chamber of secrets. Did you know, for example, 22% of British people that have found something unwanted in their food chose not to complain? I found something disgusting in a box of chicken nuggets once. 6 chicken nuggets. 30% of British men would ditch their partner for a friend. I admit, I would. I'd say to my girl, sorry, babe, but you know with me, it's bros before hoes, and tonight, baby girl, it's chess club. I'll be back by 8:30. And pet owners that sleep with their pets are susceptible to a variety of animal diseases. Not me, I always wear a condom. Right, let's have a look and see if the Queen is up there. Yes, it's the Queen. According to Buckingham Palace, the royal family costs each of us 61 pence per person per year. But they have made some cutbacks. Diana, Margaret and the Queen Mum have all been laid off. Should we have a look and see if Obama is up there? Yes, it's Barack Obama. As an African-American, Barack Obama is the only US president who ever needed a bulletproof car to protect him from his own police escort. Let's have a look and see if the aftermath of the election is up there. Yes, it's the aftermath of the election. The great news is, without a Tory majority, I won't have to pay the dementia tax. And the other great news is, I won't have to pay the dementia tax. Did you know, for example, Candy Crush is the most downloaded game on smartphones, and that's because Tinder is not technically a game. Although I am a player. In the past 2 years, 25% of UK adults have bought plus-size clothing. If you don't know what plus-size clothing is, it comes in XL, XXL, and fucking hell. And 25% of Brits employ a cleaner. I once had sex with my cleaner. I bloody love that Henry the Hoover. OK, well, let's have a look and see if fast food is up there. Yes, it's fast food. Chicken nuggets come in 4 distinct shapes: the bell, the ball, the boot and the bone, which is coincidentally also the list of ingredients. Well, let's see if Ed Sheeran is up there. Yes, second. Yes, it's Ed Sheeran. Ed Sheeran is an award-winning singer, songwriter and national treasure. Is there anything he can't do? Yes, open a fridge without getting sunburnt. For example, in 2016, identity theft rose by 57% in the UK. I guarantee I'll never fall victim to identity theft, or my name's not Susan McManus. 27% of Welsh people have fallen out with their partner over something they did in a dream. It must be difficult for Welsh people. You start off by counting sheep, and then one thing leads to another. And the number of vegans in the UK has risen by 300% in the past 10 years. I had no idea there were so many vegans. After all, it's not like they go on about it all the fucking time. Well, I can tell you 64% of our studio audience do not think they're a good dancer. You get the point. When it comes to dancing, you can't beat a bit of ballroom, which is why whenever I'm dancing, I always wear something comfy. Yes, the top cause of family arguments is people being messy. I often come home and find my girlfriend's left things lying around. Shoes in the lounge, trousers in the hallway, boxer shorts on the landing, and a man's shirt on the bedroom floor. She's so bloody messy. Did you know, for example, 10% of British people can't swim, although if there's a free bar in the pool at their all-inclusive hotel in Magaluf, they will give it a go. 30% of British people walk to work, and that 30% is their legs. And the sun is over 300,000 times larger than Earth. To put that into perspective, if you imagine the Earth is the size of you, then the sun would be the size of your mum. OK, let's have a look and see if beach holidays are up there. Of course, #1, beach holidays. I love the British seaside. Nothing in the world can beat standing in the rain with the pungent smell of raw sewage in the air, watching a seagull slowly choke to death on a used condom. OK, let's see if Hollywood movies are up there. Yes, Hollywood movies! Hollywood's a dream factory where anyone can be whatever they want to be, with the one exception of openly gay leading men. Did you know, for example, 30% of British men avoid changing their hairstyle? I haven't avoided changing my hairstyle, but until Lego make a different one, I'm stuck with this. British shoppers spend almost £55 billion a year on the high street, and that's 55 billion and 5p if they forget to bring their own carrier bag. And the most popular time for people to have sex is 10:24 on a Saturday night. It certainly is for my girlfriend, because that's when I'm on stage. OK, let's take a look and see if the heat wave is up there. Yes, it's Britain's heat wave. Old people are being told to stay indoors during the heat wave, and that's because they don't look good in bikinis. Let's have a look and see if Trump is up there. Yes, it's Donald Trump firing the head of the FBI. This is the most shocking thing Trump has done since, well, lunchtime. The UK is the 5th fattest nation in Europe. So who's fatter than us? Well, I believe it's Latvia, Sardinia, Slovenia and the Orkney Islands. A recent study revealed Taiwan is the best country in the world for expats. My auntie is now an expat. He calls himself Chris. Never been happier. Hello and welcome to 8 out of 10 Cats, a show all about opinion polls, surveys and statistics. Did you know, for example, 17% of adults don't class sexting as cheating? I love sexting. Nothing turns me on more than reading the phrase, who dis? 47% of people think boy racers are the worst type of drivers, and that's a survey of people who have never seen your mum park in a disabled bay and then do one of her funny walks into Sainsbury's. And 80% of people say they always visit cultural attractions when on holiday, although that drops to just 20% when you explain that watching someone shoot ping-pong balls out of their foof is not technically a cultural attraction. Did you know, for example, 7% of drivers have gone to court over a speeding incident? It happened to me. I tried to explain, yes, I was speeding at one point, but to be fair, hitting those pensioners slowed me right down. 5% of people have worn the same pair of jeans for the last 10 years, and we call those people dads. And 43% of British women don't get enough sleep. Well, ladies, trust me, if you go to bed with me, you will. Well, let's have a look and see if Storm Angus is up there. Yes, it's Storm Angus. So those were the nation's most popular talking points. But in other news, Donald Trump has said this week that he's as liberal and tolerant as the next man. Unfortunately, the man he was standing next to was Nigel Farage. OK, let's see if celebrity deaths are up there. Of course. Yes, 2016 was a bad year for celebrity deaths. Victoria Wood, Carolina Hearn, Paul Daniels and Terry Wogan all sadly died. It's like the Grim Reaper is stalking Britain's most beloved celebrities. So if you're watching Mr. Motivator, I think you'll be all right. So 51% of people say they'll take their next holiday alone. My girlfriend will. She doesn't know yet, but she will. 1 in 6 British grandparents plan to spend all their savings before they die. So, kill them now. And 90% of people are happy in their own company. Wankers. Did you know, for example, 8% of people have seen their neighbours naked? I know I have. It was so annoying. I had to wait hours. British workers lose 29 million days a year to hay fever. Of course, hay fever doesn't affect all British workers, just those in certain fields. And pigs can run at a speed of 11 miles per hour. Unfortunately for pigs, what can run at 12 miles per hour is David Cameron. I'm not sure. I think the drugs have just kicked in. Well, I can tell you the ban on junk food ads is not one of the most talked about things this week. Junk food ads aimed at children are to be banned online. A study's found a third of children are obese, and that third is hanging over the top of their trousers. OK, well, let's have a look and see if Donald Trump is up there. Yes, the US election, the most talked about thing. Donald Trump says he'll replace Obama's healthcare system, so Obamacare will now become Donald Doesn't Care. Of course, the thing we like most about Christmas is spending time with family. Nothing beats the feeling you get when your family arrive on Christmas Eve, except the feeling you get when they fuck off again on Boxing Day. Yes, it's Strictly Come Dancing. Ed Balls is the latest in a long line of comedy bookings for Strictly that have included Anne Widdecombe, John Sargent and Russell Grant. Well, they call them comedy bookings. Viewers know them as the fat shit ones. Strictly judge Darcy Bustle is Britain's best-loved ballet dancer. Well, I say that. She's our only ballet dancer. That's like saying Stephen Hawking is the nation's favourite wheelchair-bound cosmologist. It's weird he's not done the show.
He's been on a Strictly cruise.
He's mad keen on Strictly,
Yeah,
actually.
he absolutely loves it.
Well, he does love the stars.
Fun! OK. All right, well, I can tell you it's extremely close, but the answer is yes. 52% of our studio audience can live without their smartphone. I could absolutely live without a smartphone. All I need is a landline that's portable with Wi-Fi and Facebook and games and my diary and Grindr. I can tell you the answer is false. Only 14% of people have a party trick. Yeah, both got it wrong. I have a great party trick. No matter where they tell me the party is, I always find out the real address. Yes, the most talked about thing. Yes, it's the US presidential election. Trump or Clinton. It's the political equivalent of being asked, would you prefer to fuck your mum or give your dad a blowing? Let's have a look and see whether the presidential election is up there. Yes, Donald Trump is the new president. I must say, as apprentice tasks go, Trump's really nailed this one. Hillary's currently sitting in a cafe, crying into a cup of tea, trying to work out who she's going to bring back into the boardroom. Did you know, for example, 7% of British people have sexted the wrong person? I know I have. And if you're watching, sorry, Mum. Christmas. Yes, it is. Christmas dinner. Alternatives to Christmas dinner include goose, reindeer steaks, and crying into a microwave lasagna for one. Well, let's have a look and see if Leicester are up there. Yes, it's true. Against all the odds, despite what everyone thought, Leicester City managed to do the impossible and make me give a shit about football for a day. Did you know, for example, 15% of Britain's native species are at risk of extinction? I love seeing our wonderful animals, foxes, badgers and hedgehogs in their natural habitat, jumping up and down on a trampoline in someone's back garden. 77% of men get down on one knee when they propose. It's a meaningless tradition, but some people still like marriage. Yes, it's Nigel Farage. Some people think Nigel Farage hates Remainers, but that's not true. You're thinking of Romanians. Well, I can tell you that Pokemon Go is not one of the most talked about things of the last year. Pokemon Go is a completely new gaming concept which has revolutionised the way children have their phones stolen in parks. Let's have a look and see if I'm a Celebrity's up there. Yes, it's I'm a Celebrity! In the jungle this year are celebrities Adam Thomas, Sam Quek and Jordan Banjo. Let's just say on launch night, Google had to lay on extra staff. OK, well, I can tell you the answer is no. Only 38% of our studio audience believe in ghosts. Are ghosts real? Well, on the one hand, you've got scientists like Richard Dawkins and Stephen Hawking saying no. On the other hand, you've got Derek Okora and Mystic Meg. I don't know who to believe. 10% of European babies are conceived on an IKEA bed, so be sure to follow the instructions. Put peg A into slot B and then screw until the nuts tighten. Salad drawers in fridges contain 8,000 bacteria per square centimetre. And for viewers in Scotland, the salad drawer is the bit at the bottom of the fridge where you keep your emergency lager. And 20% of people admit to preparing a meal just to photograph it for social media. It sounds weird, but to be honest, I'm like that with my erections. I'm going to give you that. The top way to let someone know you fancy them is giving them lots of eye contact. Yes, the best way to let someone know you fancy them is eye contact. When a girl looks at me, I can tell in a flash what she's thinking. She's thinking, I wish she'd stop flashing me. Shall we have a look and see if the Euros is up there? Oh. Yes, it's Euro 2016. England were beaten by minnows Iceland. To put that into perspective, it's like a 21-ton articulated lorry getting run over by a hedgehog. Ashley. Yes, it's Christmas presents. But there's nothing that shows your gratitude for a gift more than those 3 magic words. Got the receipt? Yes, Game of Thrones. Game of Thrones, of course, has a very broad appeal. It doesn't matter if you enjoy seeing a dragon lady with her boobs out in a tent, a witch with her boobs out near a bonfire, or an evil queen with her boobs out in a castle. There's something for everyone. So those were the most talked about TV shows of the last year, but in other TV news, Richard Jones won Britain's Got Talent in May, becoming the first magician to be crowned champion, and he lived up to his promise. Since then, he's completely disappeared. The Jump was back for a 3rd series. With so many injuries, it's easier to think of The Jump as the Christmas special of 24 Hours in A&E. And Casualty celebrated its 30th anniversary. I can't have been the only one who got worried when I saw them going up that wobbly stepladder to hang the bunting. Well, let's have a look and see if Donald Trump's one of the most talked about things. Of course. Yes, it's Donald Trump, president-elect. Foreign Secretary Boris Johnson said there was a lot to be positive about following Trump's victory. Yeah, especially if you're a big fan of sexual assault and racism. Yes, it's the Brexit High Court judgment. Boris Johnson looked shocked, confused and dishevelled. Then he was told the news. OK, well, I can tell you the answer is, in fact, true. 70% of people would lie to avoid offending a friend.
We have standards for driving.
I think honesty is the best policy. So if you're watching, Steve, I'm fucking your mum. Of course. Yes, Andy Murray won his 2nd Wimbledon title. Where would we be without Andy Murray? Sitting on a hill, half-heartedly shouting, "Come on, Tim." Well, I can tell you Justin Bieber is not one of the most talked about things.
Oh.
Yeah. For the rest of his tour, Justin Bieber will be driven round in a car with bulletproof glass, just so he doesn't shoot any of his fans. 1 in 3 horses in the UK are lame. So you might think horses are cool, but actually a 1/3 of them, pretty lame. And 40% of people in Middlesbrough say they wouldn't buy a property without a front garden, of course, because they need somewhere to keep their fridge. Yes, it's Black Friday. Black Friday is fast becoming a tradition in this country. Christmas isn't Christmas if you haven't seen 2 fat women in Hartlepool fighting over a NutriBullet they're never going to use. 26% of new mums worry about their social life changing. So you lose the chance to hang out with the girls, drink Prosecco and have a good old gossip. But on the other hand, you've got sick down your top, your house stinks of baby shit and your boobs ache. So, swings and roundabouts. 10,000 birds die each year crashing in windows. Hey, birds, get with it. Maybe it's time you got a Mac. That is a silly joke. And 17% of women want a partner who likes their cooking better than their mums. I'll admit my girlfriend's cooking is much better than my mum's. But when it comes to blowjobs... Well, I can tell you the Grand Tour is not one of the most talked about things. But in the Grand Tour, there are car stunts and challenges like normal. But the most dangerous part is when someone offers Clarkson a salad. Yes, Britain voted for Brexit. Brexit will have a lot of repercussions. If all the Eastern European workers go home, just imagine the mountain of ironing, the backlog of DIY jobs, and Keith Vaz might have to fuck his wife for a change. Remember that lovely story, Keith Vaz? A couple of rent boys. Yeah, and I can say that because he definitely did it. All right, Keith? Morally repugnant, am I? Have a fucking word, mate. Have a word. Let's take a look and see if I'm Celebrities up there. Oh. Yes! I'm a celebrity. The bush tuck of food on this series will include kangaroo anus, crocodile penis and camel toe, because Carol Vorderman wears her shorts too tight.
Jimmy Carr.
What?
Put your bloody hair shirt on.
Well, I can tell you the answer is true. 57% of people wish their life was more exciting.
That's a Brexit margin.
You're never too old to try something exciting. My nan recently took up base jumping. Well, I say base jumping, she slipped off a balcony. Well, I say slipped, I pushed her. But... Thanks for the house, Nan. I can tell you the answer is false. Only 41% of people find tattoos attractive. There are 5 main types of tattoo: tribal, Japanese, prison, stag do and shit. Did you know, for example, the Bible actually gives no date for Jesus' birthday, so Mary and Joseph probably just said it was December 25th, so they didn't have to buy him 2 sets of presents. The average Brit takes 15 hours to finish their Christmas shopping, which begs the question, just how far do they live from the all-night garage? And 52% of British people eat twice their recommended calorie intake every Christmas day. And that fact also works if you remove the word Christmas. Of course it is. Most talked about TV show. Yes, the Great British Bake Off. Many people ask what's the secret of 81-year-old Mary Berry's longevity. Well, she spends every day standing next to a hot oven where winter simply can't get her. Okay. Yes, X Factor. Snoop Dogg has stepped in to defend Honey G, calling her the greatest X Factor act of all time. Proof, if proof were needed, that Snoop Dogg still loves getting really high. Yes. Number 3. Yes, it's Jeremy Corbyn. In June, a motion of no confidence against Jeremy Corbyn was passed, but Corbyn wasn't worried. At his age, you get used to unwanted motions being passed all the time. Did you know, for example, 15% of people say carbon monoxide detectors are too expensive? Yeah, I love my kids, but not 12 quid's worth. A recent study revealed Taiwan is the best country in the world for expats. My auntie is now an expat. He calls himself Chris. Never been happier. And 85% of women wash their hands after going to the toilet. Why are you washing your hands, ladies? Surely what you should be washing is your bum and your fanny. I can tell you it's close, but the answer is false. Only 40% of people would rather spend time with their pets. Pets are better than friends. You try finding a friend who'll lick Marmite off your testicles for a biscuit and tell no one. Should we have a look and see if the supermoon's up there? Yeah, everyone's talking about the supermoon. The moon hasn't been this close to Earth since 1948. But hey, Earth, if you really like the moon, you should have done what Saturn did and put a ring on it. Well, I can tell you the answer is no. Only 37% of our studio audience would like to go to their school reunion. I had a geography teacher that used to fancy me, but she said, I'm going to wait till you finish school. And at 3:30, she fucked me. Yes, the biggest teenage regret is worrying about other people's opinions. I never worry about what people think of me. If I did, I'd probably dye my hair every week and have my teeth painted white.
Is it just to roll over and go to sleep?
No, the opposite of that.
You're the
That
best.
was the best I've ever had.
We'll give it to you. The best way to compliment a man is to tell him he's good in bed.
Ugh.
Yes, the best way to compliment a man is to tell him he's good in bed. When it comes to sex, I pride myself on making sure any woman I'm with has the most satisfying and fulfilling 7 seconds of her life. The worst thing you can do on a date is talk about your ex. Yes, the worst thing you can do on a date is talk about your ex. That's why when I'm on a first date, I always just complain about my current girlfriend. Yes, the most annoying thing about sharing a house is cleaning up after other people.
Wow.
Me and my girlfriend share the household chores 50-50. I do the ironing, dusting and washing up, and she has sex with me. I can tell you it's close, but 55% of our audience would be more excited to wake up on Christmas morning. My favourite Star Wars character is C-3PO, a closeted homosexual robot with no genitals. It's like looking in a mirror. I can tell you Love Island is not one of the most talked about TV shows of the last year, but if you've never seen Love Island, the concept is very simple. 25 people enter a villa and then each other. Yes, contestants are sure to find love on Love Island if what they mean by love is a strange burning sensation in their genitals. Yes, it's Brexit. The case for Brexit's been presented to the Supreme Court. If it gets through, the next stage is judges' houses. Then if the judges can't decide, Dermot O'Leary takes it to deadlock. OK, should we have a look and see if the Olympics is up there? Yeah. Yes, it's the Rio Olympics. Britain triumphed at the Olympics. Team GB brought back 27 golds, 23 silver, 17 bronze and the Zika virus. Yes, it's I'm a Celebrity. I'm a Celebrity finished after 3 amazing weeks. During the eating trials, contestants had to eat things like camel nipples, cockroaches and pig genitals. No wonder Scarlett Moffat was good at it. That's pretty much the ingredients of every Newcastle kebab. The Denver Broncos won this year's Super Bowl. I'm not saying American football is boring, but to liven up, they had Coldplay perform halfway through. And Cheryl is currently dating Liam Payne. At 33, you could say that Cheryl's old enough to be his mum, but she's from Newcastle, so she's actually old enough to be his nan. 40% of people regularly reward their pets with treats. Who's going to the vet for a lovely long sleep? Who's going to the vet for a lovely long sleep? 44% of Brits think that we should have a space programme. But Britain does have a space programme. Doctor Who. And 27% of men play games on their mobile whilst in bed with their partner. I'm guessing Angry Birds, especially when she wants to play Snake. Yes, Simon Cowell has become a father for the first time. I'm surprised Simon was at the birth of the child, because normally he doesn't like being in a room where he's not the biggest. Punchline removed for legal reasons. So those were the most talked about things over the last week. But in other news, it's been revealed Tony Blair apparently advised Rebecca Brooks on the hacking scandal just before her arrest. Blair's main piece of advice was don't go out in the rain with that hair, it'll go all frizzy. And a woman's been treated for burns in Barcelona after the toilet she was sitting on exploded. As she was carried out by emergency services, she whispered, I'd leave that 5 minutes if I were you. Well, I can tell you the proposed sugar tax is not in our top 3, but they want to tax fizzy drinks because they're linked to obesity. Although, saying that, another study claims that fizzy drinks are good for you, and that was carried out by the eminent scientist, Dr. Pepper. The EU referendum debate's not one of the most talked about things over the last week, but Ed Miliband says if Labour win the next election, they won't call for a referendum on Britain's EU membership unless Britain was asked to transfer more powers to Brussels, which I think you'll agree is about as clear as Eric Pickle's piss. I can tell you pubs is not one of Britain's greatest contributions to the world, but the oldest existing pub in Britain was built in the 8th century. We don't know much about it, but we do know the barman was a guy called Skip from Brisbane, who was just working there so he could get some money together to bum around Europe. Norwich has the politest drivers in the UK. Well, it's difficult to be rude when virtually everyone you meet is a close relative. The oldest paperboy in Britain is Bernard Davies from Brighton. He's 90 years old. Sorry, we just had an update. The oldest paperboy in Britain is Gavin Henderson from Sunderland. He's 12. And 51% of women do not groom or style their pubic hair. 51%, that means statistically, either your mum or your nan is rocking a Brazilian. Yes, floods have been devastating parts of the UK. Eric Pickles was the first minister to apologise for the flooding. He filled his bath too high, and when he got in, Somerset flooded. Yes, Gwyneth Paltrow and Chris Martin are splitting up. In the press release, Chris Martin and Gwyneth Paltrow said they were consciously uncoupling, as opposed to unconsciously uncoupling, which is just when it accidentally slips out. So those were the most talked about things over the last week. But in other news, it's been announced Nick Clegg and Nigel Farage will take part in a televised debate. Now we can finally get the answer to the question British voters really want answered. Who would win in a fight between a prick and an arsehole? Legoland was closed at the weekend due to a terror threat. What's the big deal? They could just put it back together. And a man in Lincolnshire has been found guilty of having sex with a Staffordshire Bull Terrier. Someone must have squealed. My money is on the dog. I can tell you the voice is not in our top 3. But after 7 weeks of blind auditions where the judges turn their chairs round, the show's moved on to the battle phase, where viewers turn the channel over. The winner of the first series of The Voice, Leanne Mitchell, is already the answer to Britain's hardest pub quiz question. Yes, Valentine's Day was on Friday. It's estimated 6 million people popped the question on Valentine's Day. And that question was, can we have a threesome? Yes, the trial of Oscar Pistorius continues. This is all just part of Oscar Pistorius' plan to become president of South Africa. He just needs to do 25 years in prison first. Of course, Oscar Pistorius shot his girlfriend last Valentine's Day, so if my girlfriend's watching, suddenly a box of chocolates and flowers from the garage don't look so bad, do they? Kate, William and George are currently on a royal tour. Kate and William took part in the traditional Maori greeting of hongi, which is done by pressing one's forehead against the nose of another. It's also the traditional greeting in Glasgow, although there they do it with much more force. According to a survey, 1 in 3 men live at home. That's nonsense. Everyone lives at home. 1 in 4 Americans have appeared on TV. I'm assuming widescreen. And 55% of people think being associated with charity work makes you seem more attractive, which explains why Pudsey Bear gets all that poontang. In September, Scotland will face a referendum on independence in which they'll be asked to either vote Och Aye or Och No. 34% of people do think they've got a great idea for a business. I'm involved in a business venture that is going to make me millions just as soon as my Nigerian friend emails me back. Well, Justin Bieber's not one of the most talked about things, but Michael Jackson earned $160 million last year and he's dead. I'm just throwing that out there in case anyone's watching from Justin Bieber's record company. Of course, the greatest pop band in history are the Beatles. They came from Liverpool, although you'll already know that if you've ever spoken to anyone from Liverpool for more than 7 seconds. 40% of British people can't identify bird songs. It's simple. It's usually either I Will Survive by Gloria Gaynor or Independent Women by Destiny's Child. 15% of Brits think Downton Abbey is the best TV show ever made, and that is a survey of your nan. And 33% of people don't know how to tie a necktie. It's easy. Just wrap it around your neck twice, tuck it in the hole and pull it tight, unless you're Piers Morgan, in which case, follow the same steps, but first attach it to a light fitting. My girlfriend asked me to knock something up in the kitchen, and now our cleaner's pregnant. The Winter Olympics in Sochi finished yesterday. After winning the gold medal, Lizzie Yarnold changed her Twitter name to Lizzie Yarn Gold. She was congratulated by her fellow British Olympians Barry Loser and Dave Last Place. 7% of women count sex as a part of their exercise regime. Well, they do when they're with me. All that running away keeps you pretty fit. 54% of published authors earn less than £600 a year. If that's you, here's a tip. Try writing a story about a boy wizard who likes his billionaire boss to tie him up and piss on him. You'll make a killing. And 3% of people claim they can speak fluent Welsh. If that's you, you can go fuck yourself. The Winter Paralympics in Sochi finished yesterday, although Putin has vowed the shooting event will continue until Ukraine surrenders. There's been a revolution in the Ukraine. Thousands of protesters gathered in Kiev's Independence Square. Here's a tip for dictators watching. Don't have a square. And if you do have a square, don't call it Independence Square. Call it Everything's Fine. Move along. Nothing to see square. Of course, traditional Irish dancers have their hands by their sides at all times because their arms have been decommissioned. Well, I can tell you Nick Clegg and Nigel Farage debating Europe is not in our top 3. But their next debate is taking place on BBC Two and not, as I hoped, on a burning platform suspended over a pool of dog shit. 84% of people would use personal contacts to help their child get a job. I hate nepotism. In fact, I'm the chairman of the Anti-Nepotism League, an organisation set up in the 80s by my father. The word dog appears just 14 times in the Bible, but loads more than that if you read it backwards. And a survey's revealed Sunday is the loneliest day for pensioners. If you're a pensioner, don't worry. Someone will be popping round on Monday to cut your heating off. Yes, the best way to impress your in-laws is to make them laugh. Number 9 on the list is admire their house. Oh, this is lovely. I look forward to inheriting this when you're dead. Yes, the biggest sign you're vain is always looking in the mirror. I've got one of those circus mirrors that makes you look all misshapen and disgusting with a massive paunch and a tiny cock. At least I think it's the mirror. 30% of English language students think learning to spell is unnecessary because of autocorrect. Stupid aunts. Yes, the countdown to the World Cup has started. I actually think England have a good chance of winning the World Cup, unless, and this could happen, any of the other teams turn up. But seriously, why stand around in a noisy club getting shunned by attractive women when you can go on Tinder and get turned down in the comfort of your own home? Yes, the top adrenaline rush is going on a roller coaster because nothing gets the heart pumping like travelling 40 feet above the ground in a metal coffin maintained by a 12-year-old scrap metal dealer with tattoos. How was I supposed to hide the fact I lost my virginity from my mum? She was there. Sorry, not my mum, John's mum. The average pub landlord is 2 stone overweight. That's nuts. And beer and crisps and lager and pork scratchings. Border collies are the most intelligent dogs. Yes, when it comes to chasing their own tails, shitting on driveways and sniffing each other's arses, border collies truly are the Einsteins. And men in the northeast think putting out the bins is the most romantic modern gesture. And why not? For most couples in Newcastle, it was where they had their first date. Yes, the crisis in Ukraine continues. Despite the tensions, the centre of Kiev has returned to normal. A big pool of delicious garlicky butter. I suppose it does depend on your definition of fun. If you mean getting drunk and acting like an idiot, then that's not me. But if your idea of fun is a disappointing evening, followed by awkward sex, apologies and crying, then I'm a really fun guy. 35% of Americans think British accents are attractive. Well, jolly nice of you to say so, fatty. 19% of people who bought Katie Price's latest book, Love, Lipstick and Lies, haven't read it yet. Fine, we haven't read it, she didn't write it, everyone's happy. And 86% of Brits can't name 5 C's around the world. It's easy. President Putin, he's a massive C. David Cameron, he's a right C. Whoever's running Iran at the moment, total C. Kim Jong-un, absolute C. And Piers Morgan, what a C. Well, I can tell you manners is not in our top 3, but different cultures have different rules. In Thailand, the rudest thing you can do is show someone the soles of your feet. I'm not entirely sure that's true. I've been to Thailand, and you could do much ruder things. Maria Miller has resigned as Culture Secretary. Maria Miller initially apologised to the House and then issued another apology, presumably to her second house. So those were the most talked about things over the last week. But in other news, Michael Gove has announced plans to make GCSEs harder. Right now, the hardest thing in the exam hall is the boys from 4C, when Madame Genevieve, the French teacher, bends over to pick up her pencil. Michael Gove wants to make the school day longer, which would mean that from now on, in a massive change, teachers would have to work up to 8 hours a year. Did you know, for example, 30% of people would consider moving abroad after a holiday? I read about 2 girls who recently went on holiday to Peru, and they liked it so much they're staying for 6 to 8 years. And 23% of Brits have never visited France, which means they've never experienced the thrill of sitting in a cafe on the Champs-Élysées and being put off their croissant by the sight of a woman's hairy armpits and the smell of dog shit. Right, let's get started. Yes, Sinead O'Connor has angrily criticised Miley Cyrus for her raunchy video. It was shocking seeing Miley Cyrus on stage at the MTV Awards in a skimpy outfit, rubbing herself up against a penis, or Robin Thicke, as he's otherwise known. Yes, Tesco has revealed the extent of food wastage in the country. According to the survey, 53% of food in this country goes to waste. The rest goes to hips and bums, right, girls? Did you know, for example, 80% of obese people say they've got no idea how much they should be eating? Here's a clue, less than that. 30% of people say their favourite meal hasn't changed since childhood. My favourite meal's still the same, sucking on boobies, right, Mum? And 18% of the population has sleepwalked. My girlfriend's a terrible sleepwalker. A few weeks ago, she sleepwalked out of the house, met up with her ex-boyfriend, they sleep-shagged, and now she sleep-left me. When she wakes up, she's going to be so embarrassed. Yes, Miley Cyrus caused controversy allegedly smoking marijuana on stage at the MTV Music Awards, although I saw the footage of Miley and I think I could see a bit of crack. Things get out of hand so quickly. I once heard of a girl who lied to her husband about how she got pregnant, and now there's an entire religion. Yes, a new series of X Factor is underway. Dermot O'Leary says millions of extra viewers have tuned in order to see his trouser bulge. Oh, Dermot, put a sock in it. Oh, wait, hang on, you have. Yes, only 31% of people find driving a stressful experience. I tell you what stresses me out, those white van drivers. They think they own the bloody road with their flashing blue lights. Calm down, mate. There's an accident up ahead. We've all got to wait. Did you know, for example, students have to apply for an average of 24 jobs before they find a position? Things are tough out there. I met a guy recently who told me he had a first with honours, an MA and a PhD. I said, that's great, but I asked you for a burger without pickle. 72% of people find spending time with animals relaxing. I like having dogs around, but my girlfriend objects to all the licking of balls and sniffing of bums. She says it upsets the dogs. And 40% of men worry about getting fat. There's a simple test for men. Look down at your stomach. If it's flat, you've got nothing to worry about. If it's sticking out a bit, you might need to go on a diet. And if you can't see your stomach because your boobs are getting in the way, you've got a problem. I like spending time with my favourite animal in my basement. It's a sort of centipede. I made it myself. It was a lot of work, and it's a bit messy, makes a hell of a noise, but it was worth it. Yes, the hardest job is a teacher. All the teachers at my school were very strict. I remember every Monday morning I had to give the deputy head. Yes, the worst thing about living alone is having no one to talk to. There's an old man who lives alone next door to me. Still, he's just bought himself a new dog for company. I think he's called it Help, because I keep on hearing him calling it. Help! 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 Don't worry, though. I think the dog's come back, because I haven't heard him shouting anything in ages. Graffiti artist Banksy set up a secret stall in New York and sold his artwork for just $60. There hasn't been a discount on art this big since Rolf Harris was arrested. So those were the most talked about things this week. But in other news, the US debt crisis has been resolved. Americans are going to have to tighten their belts, which won't be easy for them, as most of them are wearing elasticated trousers. British Gas has put up prices by 10%. Our only hope of beating the energy crisis now is to build more wind farms and to switch exclusively to Mexican food. And it's been revealed this week that the Soviet Union once ran up a huge debt to New Zealand after importing massive quantities of butter. I'm not sure where the Soviets kept all this butter, but I'm guessing in the middle of Kiev. Did you know, for example, 43% of men flirt with people behind their partners' backs? I have to confess, I sometimes flirt with people without telling my girlfriend, but it doesn't mean anything. It's just a bit of harmless banter in the steam room of a gay sauna. It's nothing. 11% of single women have already picked out their wedding dress. It's an important decision. It's a lot of money to spend on a dress you're only going to wear never. And video game controllers have 5 times the amount of germs found on a toilet seat. It's their own fault for giving them that vibrate function. Yes, indeed, Strictly Come Dancing has started again. In the first episode of this series of Strictly, everyone agreed Abby Clancy stole the show. Typical Scouser. Channel 4's new show, Sex Box, aired this week. If I want to have sex in a small, windowless box devoid of any romance or sexual excitement, I'll book me and my girlfriend into a travel lodge. Strictly Come Dancing continues. One of the celebrities, Patrick Robinson, is from Casualty. His dance starts well, but halfway through he starts climbing a stepladder to hang Christmas lights over a bath, and you think this isn't going to end well. Did you know, for example, 1.5 million Britons would like to be buried with their mobile phone? And if you answer it when you're sitting behind me in the cinema, you will be. 1 in 20 people have held a party for their cat's birthday. Even the cat's thinking, this is a bit tragic. And 22% of nightclub hookups are one-night stands. Yeah, who would have thought the guy you tugged off in a toilet cubicle 2 minutes after meeting him in Hollywood's nightclub Romford wouldn't turn out to be the love of your life? But if you are watching, Darren, call me. Yes, the Plebgate row has intensified this week. Andrew Mitchell's always disputed the police's version of events, saying, I 100% deny calling those pricks plebs. Yes, the Tory party conference. The conference started with a short film about Margaret Thatcher, which got a standing ovation. To be fair, it has got a brilliant ending. Yes, Britain's youth have scored amongst the lowest in international literacy and numeracy tests. How do you expect Britain's teenagers to learn to read and write? They're too busy bringing up their kids. So those were the most talked about things this week. But in other news, Silvio Berlusconi is set to carry out 12 months of community service, although unfortunately the community he's chosen is a Catholic girls' school. And this week, a Bristol woman of 85 got her first ever tattoo. She had the Grim Reaper on her shoulder, watching as she got a tattoo of a dolphin. Yes, the Great British Bake Off was the most talked about thing this week. Bake Off's not been a great success in America, of course, over there. It's a dieting show. Yes, men's biggest worries are putting on weight and going grey. Either way, the solution is the same. Diet. Yes, David Cameron has reshuffled his cabinet. David Cameron denies putting more women in the cabinet is mere tokenism. The promotions are Minister for Hoovering, Helen Grant, and Nicky Morgan, the new Minister for Total Sexiness. Did you know, for example, 36% of people think the best way to dump someone is over the phone? Please press 1 for it's not you, it's me. 2 for we can still be friends, and 3 for I'm sorry, I've got your mum pregnant. 25% of men pretend to be asleep if they hear a strange noise in the night. I can't get to sleep sometimes because there's this strange bzzz, bzzz, bzzz. I asked my girlfriend, is there a fly in here? And she said, yes, yes, yes! And 73% of dieters abandon their diet at the weekend. And there's a special name for those dieters. Fat people. Yes, the badger cull's been extended as they say they haven't killed enough animals. The aim of the cull was to stop the spread of bovine TB and to distract Brian May from making any more music. Yes, Alex Ferguson's autobiography was released this week. In the book, Ferguson is scathing about David Beckham, Roy Keane and Wayne Rooney. If that lot ever learn to read, they'll be livid. Did you know, for example, 10% of British people let their pet sleep in their bed? There's nothing more relaxing than waking up in the night to feel the weight of your dog on your chest, to feel his fur, hear his gentle panting, and sense his eyes staring at you in the darkness. Until you realise, hang on a minute, I haven't got a dog. 54% of teenagers never go to the cinema. Really? Where do they make their phone calls? And 25% of Brits rate themselves 10 out of 10 in the bedroom. I'd give myself 9.9 because I fell over on the dismount. Yes, the top thing people wish they were better at is speaking foreign languages. We had a really great French teacher at my school, but in the end I failed the oral. Apparently I didn't cup les balls properly. Did you know, for example, cat owners are 30% less likely to have a heart attack? And that, lonely ladies living on your own with no family, partner, friends or love life, is the good news. Walking sideways burns 78% more calories than walking normally, which is why you never see a fat crab. And 35% of women would hate their partner to see their underarm hair, so they hide it under their nose and poking out of their knickers. Yes, Britain continues to be battered by freezing weather. Conditions in Birmingham were described as appalling, with no food on the shelves, schools shut and emergency services stretched to breaking point. And then it began to snow. College in County Durham is running an X Factor preparation course. It teaches the 3 golden rules: work on your vocals, become homeless, and wait for your nan to die. And pubic lice are becoming extinct due to an increase in body waxing. Conservationists have now declared David O'Doherty a nature reserve. The government have unveiled plans for a new high-speed rail line. It said it will cost £32.7 billion, or £35 billion if you get a return. Yes, MPs have passed a bill to make gay marriage legal, even if it's a way of life you yourself don't subscribe to. Even if you think it's weird or somehow against nature, you still have to respect people's right to be a Tory MP. Did you know, for example, 1 in 20 couples say they sleep in separate rooms to strengthen their relationship? I guess they also have sex with other people to prove how much they love each other. 10% of people never talk about food at work, and that's because they're too fat to work, and besides, they don't want to talk with their mouth full. And 25% of men never use deodorant, but unfortunately, they do use public transport. Manchester City won their first Premier League title in 44 years. Well, that's not strictly true. For 43 years straight, they won shittest club in Manchester. Yes, it was Valentine's Day yesterday. It's named after Saint Valentine, the patron saint of awkward meals at Pizza Express. So those were the most talked about things this week. But in other news, Paralympian Oscar Pistorius has been arrested for shooting and killing his girlfriend. Finally, a story Lance Armstrong can read and think, I'm actually not that bad a bloke. Yes, the top thing people learn from TV shows are cooking tips. The best thing about my girlfriend's cooking is I know exactly what I'm going to get. Gastroenteritis. Yes, the horse meat scandal continues. IKEA have stopped selling meatballs after finding they contained horse meat. It's terrible. If you can't trust cheap meat products sold as an afterthought in a Swedish furniture shop, what can you trust? So those were the most talked about things this week. But in other news, a woman in Las Vegas has been caught having sex with a dog in her front yard. Oh, God, get a kennel. It's her own fault. She'd been leading him on for years. Police found the dog burying his bone in her back garden. 1 in 3 Scots want to leave the United Kingdom. So far, they've got as far as the off licence. And 20% of people would have sex on a plane. I once had a little bit of foreplay with a girl I met on a plane, Aer Lingus. After 70 years, 20,000 British troops are being brought home from Germany. And why not? If history's taught us anything, it's if there's one country that can be trusted on its own, it's Germany. Did you know, for example, 5% of UK adults take a teddy bear on holiday? It's ridiculous. Everyone knows the best way to smuggle cocaine is up a dog's bum. 8% of parents admit to having a favourite child. My parents always made it clear I wasn't their favourite, which is tough on an only child. And 10% of people have had sex in their office. I used to go out with a girl who worked for the council. She once let me have sex in the waste management department. It was my birthday. Did you know, for example, for every human in the world, there are 1 million ants, but surprisingly, only 1 deck? 30% of men buy their partners red roses on their anniversary. I bought my girlfriend some red roses, some red lingerie, and we had some red wine. And then we went up to the bedroom and read. And 5% of women think their eyebrows are their best feature. Ladies, I don't know much about eyebrows, but I do know they shouldn't be poking out the sides of your pants. Yes, Doctor Who is 3rd on our list of favourite shows. People say the show's not realistic, but I think it is. It's featured 11 different doctors, and I've never seen a single one of them washing their hands. So, those were the nation's favourite TV shows. But The Only Way is Essex came 16th. At the start of each episode of Towie, a disclaimer is read out stating that some scenes have been created for your entertainment. Well, none that I've seen. 10th on the list was X Factor. Every year, the X Factor finalists release a charity single to help the poverty-stricken and destitute. This year, it's in aid of Matt Cardle. And Strictly Come Dancing came 12th on our poll. The surprise star of last series was Lisa Riley. She put her success down to being double-jointed. At every meal, she has beef and lamb. Yes, David Cameron has promised an in-out referendum on Europe. France and Germany have said Britain can't pick and choose its terms with Europe. There are just two things you need to remember, France and Germany: World War I and World War II. Yes, the government is to introduce a new citizenship test. Personally, I think if you've got the stamina, determination and willpower to hang on to the underside of a lorry for 18 hours, fuck the test, welcome to Britain. Yes, archaeologists have uncovered the bones of Richard III in a Leicester car park. The remains of Richard III have been sitting in the car park since 1485. The good news is the first 2 hours were free. People have been talking about there are traces of horse meat have been found in several supermarket burgers. Silvercrest Food, one of the suppliers of the horse meat-contaminated burgers, is said to be an award-winning company. And it turns out the award they won was the Grand National in 2012. Did you know, for example, the average man in Glasgow owns 2 suits, one for court and the other for the next time they go to court? 83% of teenage girls keep a diary, which it turns out is very bad news for 70s DJs. And 1 in 8 men try to lose weight before going on holiday. I decided to cheat. I got myself one of those things that makes you look thinner on the beach. A fat girlfriend. Yes, it was transfer deadline day yesterday. Manchester City striker Mario Balotelli has moved to AC Milan. David Beckham has signed for French club PSG. If you're watching, David, be careful what you eat in France. They recently found some beef DNA in their horse burgers. Jess Ennis was at the peak of physical fitness in the heptathlon. Watching her, I couldn't help feeling ashamed of myself because I could see what I was doing reflected in the telly. Yes, the Oscars were held on Sunday. Daniel Day-Lewis was the big winner. With his Oscars for My Left Foot, There Will Be Blood, and now Lincoln, he's won more Oscars for unwatchable, tedious films than anyone in history. Yes, the top advice you'd give your younger self is to be more confident. If I went back in time, I'd say to my younger self, you need to be more confident. And my younger self would say, what the fuck have you done to my teeth? Yes, UFOs. I once found myself surrounded by these strange, misshapen humanoids. I didn't know what to say, so I just said the first thing that popped into my head. Hello, Norwich. Yes, the Pope has resigned. He's going to be difficult to replace. Where are we going to find another paedophile apologist who's also a Nazi? Yes, the best thing about living with your parents is not having to pay bills. Just because you live with your parents doesn't mean you can't have a life. My mate lives with his parents and he got lucky the other night. Crispy pancakes for tea. Yes, the worst thing about fancy dress parties is people who don't dress up. I went to a fancy dress party as a pirate. Illegally copied all their DVDs. Yes, this week Lance Armstrong spoke to Oprah Winfrey about his drug scandal. Lance Armstrong is now despised around the world, which is the second thing he's got in common with Hitler. Did you know, for example, 1/3 of people flush the toilet while still sat on it, which I believe is known as a Manchester bidet. It takes the average person 7 minutes to fall asleep, although that can drop to under a minute if you're going out with John Richardson. Which you're not. No one is. Well, you go out with him then. And 25% of women have difficulty experiencing orgasms. They could try having a threesome with me and their more attractive sister. Might help, might not. I'm just saying, let's give it a go. Caprice is ideal for the high dive because these days her face permanently looks like it's travelling at 60 miles an hour. Yes, the most annoying thing that couples do is argue in front of other people. My dad had an amazing technique to avoid arguments in our house. He left when I was 2. I can tell you that Chris Huhne is not in our top 3, but Chris Huhne's girlfriend is bisexual, just like he'll be by the time he comes out of prison. Did you know, for example, 25% of people can write a text without looking at their phone, which is great because it means you can really concentrate on your driving. 48% of Brits think social networks can help new relationships. It's so true. My life has been such a social whirlwind since I joined Grindr. I've hardly been able to sit down. And 20% of men don't know what a pedicure is. A pedicure? Pretty sure it's a cure for men like Jimmy Savile. Yes, the controversy over horse meat continues. Tesco pulled products off their shelves this week. That is a case of shutting the stable door after the horse has bolted into the mincer at the meat processing plant. Yes, the top thing people boast about is their kids. I make it a rule never to boast about my kids. The last thing I want is for my girlfriend to find out about them. Yes, the Pope's retired. Of course, the Pope was famously against using condoms. He said he couldn't feel anything. Yes, Justin Bieber caused outrage by turning up 2 hours late for a gig. It's not just kids that like Justin Bieber. My nan actually describes herself as a belieber. She's very religious and she's lost her teeth. Did you know, for example, 1 in 5 women have been offended by a partner calling them curvy? On behalf of men everywhere, I'd just like to say, sorry, fatty. 79% of pet owners sleep with their pets. But be careful, the last time I did, when I woke up, my duvet was soaking wet and my goldfish was dead. And 12% of adults regularly get sucked into money-making schemes. I got sucked into a money-making scheme. I made 50 quid, and to be honest, it didn't taste half as bad as I expected. I wrote a book about poltergeists, and I'm pleased to say it's literally flying off the shelves. Yes, the best way to make friends is to listen to people's problems. Of course, some people like me have the opposite problem, too many friends. It's like every makeup girl we've ever had on this show has had to leave because I'm too friendly. Yes, the best way to relax after a hard day at work is watch TV. I always like to sit in front of the telly and veg out, and by that I mean I don't wear any trousers. Did you know, for example, 1 in 8 adults in this country own a onesie? That's great, although I think there's a time and a place for a onesie. The place, your living room, the time, when you're 6. 79% of people enjoy experimenting with their meals, particularly the staff at Findus. And cat owners are 30% less likely to have a heart attack, mainly because their heart's already been broken.
Welcome your host, Jimmy Carr.
Hello and welcome to 8 out of 10 Cats, a show about opinion polls, surveys and statistics. Did you know, for example, 16% of women say they lie about their age from time to time, and those times are between the ages of 28 and 53. 40% of men would rather be single than bald. So finally, some good news for Justin Lee Collins. And 23% of people think they're more productive when they work from home. I know I am, but that's because I'm a self-employed erection checker. But in other news, former Bosnian Serb leader Radovan Karadzic is on trial for orchestrating genocide. Bad enough to commit genocide, but to set it to music, that's just sick. And in footballing news, John Terry isn't appealing. I could have told you that. Only 24% of people would rather host a house party than go to one. I like to party like it's 1999. Everything's a little bit cheaper, and I'm not with my current girlfriend. Quite funny, but she's going to kill me. The worst thing is when you turn up at a house party dressed as Batman, and then you realise, A, it's not fancy dress, B, you haven't been invited, C, it's Christmas Eve, and D, she won't let you in to see your kids. Did you know, for example, 32% of Britons aged between 25 and 39 live at home with their parents? I guess that can be awkward sometimes. For instance, if you're a grown-up who's currently watching this with your parents, why don't you all just take a moment to imagine each other having sex? See? Awkward. Only 1% of Brits don't own a TV. You know what I call people like that? Anything I like, they're not going to see this. And 15% of men have never touched a vacuum cleaner. I've never touched a vacuum cleaner. In fact, I've literally no idea how it got up there. Yes, the new Call of Duty computer game has been released. Call of Duty Black Ops 2 is the most exciting, futuristic, slick, engrossing, brutal, Hollywood-produced reason you're still a virgin at 30 ever. But in other news, the CIA has been rocked by revelations that its chief, General Petraeus, had an affair. General Petraeus was betrayed by private emails. private emails, is now facing court-martial. This is the most disappointing thing to happen in the American espionage community since Brodie's wife stopped getting her norks out in Homeland. And the Church of England have announced the Bishop of Durham is to become the new Archbishop of Canterbury. He's made up, as is his religion. 25% of people do their weekly online shop whilst in bed. I do. It helps me remember what we need. Meat, 2 veg, dumplings, a couple of baps. 83% of British people admit to stealing something from a hotel room. I stayed in a hotel the other day. I decided to throw caution to the wind, opened up the minibar and I downed all the bottles of bubbly. And then I woke up and realised I was in a travel lodge and all the shampoo had disappeared. 30% of Brits think it's acceptable to answer the phone during sex. It happens. Mum, it's for you. Did you know, for example, 9 out of 10 children visit McDonald's once a month? What's that thing that all the kids get in McDonald's? Oh, yeah, fat. 68% of men start conversations with strangers while queuing for the toilet. I wish people would just mind their P's and queue. And 27% of people keep a weapon by the bed to protect themselves against intruders. I don't have a weapon. Instead, I sleep in stockings and suspenders. Then if I'm burgled, I just throw back the covers and say, "What kept you?" Have announced the release of the new iPad Mini. Experts think the iPad Mini will be the most popular gift this Christmas. So if you work in a Chinese sweatshop, that tea break might just have to wait. But in other news, Conservative Chief Whip Andrew Mitchell has resigned after being accused of calling police officers plebs. People say pleb is the worst thing he could have called a policeman. Of course, they've forgotten about scum, peeler, plod, pig, bacon, rozza, 5-0, filth, dibble, busy, fuzz, tithead and And a Brazilian student has sold her virginity this week for £500,000. "I'm not a prostitute," said the 20-year-old Brazilian prostitute. Did you know, for example, by 2030, 26 million Brits will be obese? Did you know if they all jumped up and down at the same time, they might lose a little bit of bloody weight? The average woman loses her virginity at 17. How's about that, then? And 70% of men don't get enough fibre in their diet. Tough shit. Yes, the Tory party conference. David Cameron and Boris Johnson have been described as frenemies, although I prefer to think of them as frasoles. The Tories say you'll now be able to attack burglars in your own home. If you ever try and burgle me, you're going to meet these two fellas. Please don't hurt me. But in other news, Freddie Starr has denied any involvement in the Jimmy Savile scandal, but these allegations risk leaving Freddie's reputation completely unchanged. And Cheryl Cole has revealed she needed vitamin jabs in her bum to cope after Ashley Cole's infidelity. I don't know if the jabs worked or not, but can I just say to Cheryl Cole's doctor, high five. Only 16% of people are regularly embarrassed by their partner's behaviour. Walking in on someone on the toilet is embarrassing. I'm so sorry I'm late. Did you know, for example, the average mum has 1 hour a day to themselves? That's the thing with mums, selfish. 25% of lap dancers have university degrees. Yes, most of them... Carol there, just getting the last joke. Or remembering something that happened earlier in her life, who knows? 25% of lap dancers have university degrees. Yes, most of them have a tutu, and a French maid's outfit, and a police uniform. And 20% of Brits have travelled abroad with their pet, which rises to 98% of Geordies. Come on, pet, where are we on holidays? Great. Yes, the competition for Strictly Come Dancing is heating up. Lisa Riley's odds have gone from 66 to 1 to 10 to 1. She thought, 10 to 1, lunchtime. But in other news, cyclist Bradley Wiggins has been knocked off his bike by a motorist. Bradley Wiggins was rushed to hospital where he was immediately stabilised by adding 2 smaller wheels to his big back wheel. His been revealed the Prime Minister and Rebecca Brooks exchanged intimate text messages. Our lawyers have been very strict on this one, so with that in mind, I'd just like to say Rebecca Brooks is a blanking ginger blank, who blanked for Rupert Murdoch, blanked to the Levinson inquiry, blanked to the police, and once even blanked a horse while David Cameron stood by blanking. And in India this week, 50 elephants went on a drunken rampage after drinking 500 litres of moonshine. In other news, a hen party from Wigan has gone missing. Did you know, for example, 25% of children aren't allowed to play conkers at school? I wasn't allowed to touch my conkers at school. Apparently, it was putting off the netball team. 13% of people have been visited by a dead person, or, to put it another way, 13% of people have fallen asleep thinking about their nan. And a survey's revealed lap dancers pay 4 times as much for car insurance as nurses, presumably because lap dancers are more at risk of being rear-ended. The Church of England have refused to allow female bishops, denying male bishops the thing they so desperately wanted: poontang on tap. Did you know, for example, 48% of men in long-term relationships don't know their own clothes size? Although if you've been in a relationship more than 5 years, chances are it's extra large. Only 2% of the Earth's population are natural redheads, so technically it wouldn't be genocide, more of a tidy-up. And 94% of men consider themselves romantic. I'm really romantic. I often stand under my girlfriend's window and serenade her with my guitar. I say my girlfriend, it's the woman next door. I say serenade, I mean stare. And also, that's not a guitar I'm holding. Yes, the X Factor is heating up. Apparently, Rylan had 8 bum notes last Sunday, each handed to him by Louis, saying, "Meet me in the dressing room after."
Have you written a book?
Yeah, I've written a book, yeah.
An autobiography?
No, God, no. If I've learnt anything, it's the less that people know about me, the better. No, just a book about jokes.
About jokes?
Yeah, not an amazing... It's not as good as this book. Personally, I don't care if a book's been written by a celebrity like Rod Stewart or Simon Cowell, or a member of the public like Kerry Katona. Did you know, for example, over 1.6 million Britons still live at home with their parents, and we call those people children. It takes giraffes up to an hour to have sex, but most of that is necking. And 65% of people think Britain is a great place to live. And that's a survey of people hanging on to the undercarriage of the Eurostar. Did you know, for example, women spend an average of 49 hours planning how they'll look on Christmas Day? What, overheated, drunk and crying? Over Christmas, 90% of British families put up a Christmas tree and 10% put down a dog. And 30% of office workers admit to seeing a colleague engaged in a romantic activity at a Christmas party. That is, if you consider photocopying your boobs a romantic activity. Which I do, so keep sending them in. Can you hear that? Can you hear that, ladies and gentlemen? I think that means Santa Claus is coming. Ladies and gentlemen, Nick Helm, our Santa Claus. Hey, Santa.
Hello.
Is it a busy time of year for you, Santa Claus?
Is it a busy time of year for me, is it, Jimmy? You taking the piss?
Just asking, is it...
Yes, Jimmy, it's fucking busy right now.
Right, OK. Well, we were going to book you in the summer, but people weren't into it.
He's such a prick.
OK, how come you're here? Just tell us why you're here, Santa.
I'm here because I'm going to ask a series of questions, and then if you get it right, you get a nice gift, and if you get it wrong, you get a pile of shit. So, so we're going to do this.
Good. Christmassy.
Oh, stop talking over my bit.
Yes, spending time with the family is the best thing about Christmas Day. Some people say the most stressful thing about Christmas is deciding which side of the family to spend the day with. I'm lucky, really, because I'm an orphan. I mean, I wasn't until last Christmas, but they just pushed me a little bit too far. Yes, it's Christmas TV and film. I love Christmas TV. There's nothing better than sitting down to watch a film you've seen countless times before with people you can no longer stand. Did you know 8% of millennials are offended by Christmas decorations? Snowflakes. But also baubles and tinsel. A third of Brits think Lapland is a fictional place. It's not. I've been, and as strip clubs go, it's actually all right. And 1 in 4 Brits don't think snogging is cheating if it's under the mistletoe. But if that mistletoe is part of a vajazzle, it's a different story. Yes, it's Christmas presents. But there's nothing that shows your gratitude for a gift more than those 3 magic words. Got the receipt? Yes, it's spending time with family. I like Trivial Pursuit because I always get the questions right. Shall we play Trivial Pursuit? No. Correct. 10% of pet owners buy their pet an outfit for Christmas. I bought my puppies an outfit for Christmas. It was a duffel bag to go swimming in.
Nice pair. It is clenched. You can crack walnut in that.
I could crack a
Relax,
walnut.
relax.
Drink it in, Bruno. That's what a real man looks like.
no.
Can I just say, while he was drinking it in, I think a bit went on me. And...
We're forming a boy band together. We are. It's called One Erection. It's gonna be huge.
Is it weird being heckled from behind?
I'm actually used to it, Sean. 7% of people who give presents say it's the thought that counts, and generally the thought is, that'll do. And 14% of Brits drink more than they intend to over Christmas, which isn't easy because they intend to get absolutely bloody shit-faced. Right. Yes, the most common New Year's resolution is to lose weight. The top 3 resolutions are lose weight, do more exercise and stop smoking. So the best thing to do is run down to the shops, buy some cigarettes and eat them. Of course it is, yes. 4th on the list is drinking too much. It's always the same for me on Christmas Day. Start with a couple of beers, then a bottle of wine, then some mulled wine because it's Christmas, then a sherry because Gran's round, and then some breakfast. Did you know 6% of Brits buy advent calendars containing alcoholic drinks? But I don't need a calendar to remind me to drink at Christmas. I just look at my family. 16% of grandmothers say Christmas is the only time of year they get drunk and let their hair down. So it's not just Santa that comes but once a year, right, Grandad? And 15% of Brits give their bin men a festive tip. Not me. I put the whole thing in. Yes, it's Christmas presents. Last year, I got my girlfriend a puppy for Christmas. It was so cute. I even put it in a little box with a big bow on it. My mistake was sending it second class. I like unusual presents. Last year, I bought my nan a lifetime supply of Werther's Originals, which turned out to be 3 packets of Werther's Originals. Yes, Christmas television. You know, Bruno, I love a bit of ballroom on Christmas Day, and that's why I wear tracky bottoms. Yes, the worst thing to do at the office Christmas party is tell your boss what you really think of them. A popular tradition at the office Christmas party is kissing under the mistletoe. But be careful, it can lead to fingering under the boardroom table. 90% of people think that Christmas is too commercialised. And there's a special name for those people, tight-fisted twats. If you're watching, children, I don't want to spoil Christmas for you, but not only is Santa made up, so's Jesus. And your dog didn't go and live on a farm. Different religions celebrate Christmas in different ways and at different times. Some people in the Middle East, for example, celebrate their Christmas on September the 11th. So we've got a lot of Al-Qaeda in, have we? And it takes up to 15 years to grow a 6-foot Christmas tree, but just 30 seconds to lob it over the fence into your neighbour's garden on January 6th. Indeed, our favourite Christmas tradition is Christmas dinner. Pigs in blankets are popular around my house at Christmas. That's my girlfriend and a sister watching TV in a blanket. Yeah, you can laugh, I'm in trouble. So the those were the top Christmas traditions. But Christmas is about much more than that. Last year, the lights in Oxford Street were turned on by Take That, as were hundreds of middle-aged women. And when it comes to decorating the tree, there's nothing better than going up to the loft, dusting off that old box, bringing it down to the living room, opening it up, realising you've accidentally brought down your old porn mags, going back up to the loft, and half an hour later coming down with the Christmas decorations. Did you know, for example, the Bible actually gives no date for Jesus' birthday, so Mary and Joseph probably just said it was December 25th, so they didn't have to buy him 2 sets of presents. The average Brit takes 15 hours to finish their Christmas shopping, which begs the question, just how far do they live from the all-night garage? And 52% of British people eat twice their recommended calorie intake every Christmas day. And that fact also works if you remove the word Christmas. Yes, the top New Year's resolution is to lose weight. Millions of people resolve to lose weight in the UK every year. Although, if the chief executive of Greggs is watching, don't worry, I think you'll be able to ride it out for a couple of days. Yes, Christmas presents, of course. Last year, I bought my girlfriend a Hoover. She didn't want it, so it's just been gathering dust.
Oh, hello. I'm Jimmy Carr. Thank you very much for watching that. If you could like and subscribe, then Daddy gets more money. So, like and subscribe.